Hey, Jim Har here. So this person left a comment on the video I did, riding the chaotic roller coaster of a borderline. The secret understanding you need to know. Commenter said about that video. Now, when you say that when the codependent focuses so much on the condition, person with BPD and what's going on with them, that we're still abandoning ourselves, commenter said made so much sense. Can you relate to that? And resonates so much with me. Does it resonate with you? And the commenter said, my thing is, though, how do you know if you're a true codependent? Interesting. Know what the commenter means, but there's no such thing as a fake codependent. But I guess the commenter is really asking, how do you know if that's really your issue, right? So how do you know if you're a true codependent? And again, a lot of people with codependency are going to have a lot of denial for a long time, but you need to seek treatment so that you can get out of that pain and hurt and the repetition compulsion of recycling relationships, or not being able to get over and through a BPD breakup so you can move on in your life. And the commenter says, I feel I am codependent because I keep ruminating on our 8+ year relationship when there were many obvious signs. But at the same time, I think to myself, and here is one of the biggest points of codependent denial, aren't all relationships hard? Aren't all relationships hard work? Codependent denial there. What do you think? How do I know, the commenter says, if the person with BPD is the problem or my codependency? Well, it's really not an either-or proposition. It's their BPD, and they're codependent as well. So a person with BPD that you might wish that you could get back with, or you keep trying, you're recycling limbo places, or maybe they won't talk to you anymore, they blocked you, and now you're just there with the agony and the rumination, and you're so focused on them and all these feelings, and you don't know what to do. That's a place where a lot of people are right now. Sadly enough, it's really painful, and it's not a place to stay stuck. It's a horrible place to be. So how do you know if the problem is the person with BPD who has codependency also, or you, or your codependency? Well, it's both and. Because people with codependency, no, you're not ever responsible for what a person with BPD, how they treat you, how they might really hurt you, how they rage at you, any of the things they do that really, it's abuse and it's hurtful and beyond, it's not love. So you're not responsible for any of that. But when that's happening, and or other things are happening that are negative, and the person with BPD is like splitting you to the valuation often, and then in that, like, they can't love you anyways, but like they certainly absolutely more hate you to the point when they split you to the valuation. Now, they're not really hating you per se, but you're going to get it, or you're going to get the silent treatment, etc., because they're really, in the split to devaluation, they're actually really hating original wounding parent. So you're the object of the representation of that wounding parent in a split to devaluation. Therefore, you're not even being seen. Like, it's really personal because you're there. But it's not really like they're saying everything they say about you is like about you, actually. How do you know if it's the person with BPD or your codependency? It's both. Because they have BPD and codependency, and they're doing what they're doing out of their woundedness, brokenness, inability to relate, and you're doing what you're doing out of patterns and repetition compulsion cycles from some kind of woundedness or unmet needs or lack of emotional safety in your childhood. There's a similarity there. There's other overlaps between BP and codependency, actually, but not for everybody. So it's sort of like the gradation or the level of codependency that, you know, different individuals have. You might be really sort of like not overlapping a lot with what is somebody with BPD in a very different way going through as well, because it's very different. Doesn't mean what you're going through the codependency is the same as a person with BPD, but it's both. It's what people with BPD can't do. It's how they can't relate. It's how they get triggered to emotional dysregulation, and then they split to devaluation and rupture the relationship over and over and over Whether that's just episodes and episodes of arguing or silent treatment or raging at you. And the jade conversations, you're justifying, arguing, defending, explaining because you just want them to get it. Like, could you just not do that? Because if you didn't do that or you didn't do this, don't scream at me. I don't know where you get. If the borderline could just stop being a borderline, wouldn't it be great? But you'd still be left with a problem, your codependency, which would still be affecting the relationship. So that's something people have to think about. And then the commenter said, so, or, is it her BPD or my codependency? How do I know the difference? And then said, or is it just a relationship that's supposed to be hard work? How to tell the difference? Well, it's codependent denial to say, aren't all relationships hard work? Because, well, there's some truth to the statement, or I would reframe it and say, as I'm in a healthy relationship now, and I've had other healthy relationships, and I've had a few cluster B relationships. A healthy relationship needs nurture, needs attention and time, needs respect and love and availability, but not all the time. And so the foundation of a healthy relationship is knowing yourself and being a healthy individual yourself. And yes, that means healing codependency first, so that you can be more of an independent person, because the ultimate in relationships, in a healthy relationship like I have with my partner, is I'm an individual, she's an individual, and yes, we love each other and we care about each other. We have positive regard and respect for ourselves and each other, but neither one of us, we're independent. So if I'm busy and my partner wants some time and I can't stop, like say in the middle of this video, she would know not to open the door, right? So, and if she's doing something, whatever that might be, in her work, her business, whatever, or socially, and I might want to talk about something, well, I can take care of things on my own. And if I can't get her support at a certain time, I just need support. I don't need to be helped with stuff. So I think I'm not just here to say, oh, in my relationship, but yeah, I'm going from that, right? But also I know a lot more about relationships in general, and what's codependent, what's unhealthy, why are BPD relationships the way they are versus a healthy relationship. So in the relationship that I have and that other healthier people have with healthier partners, it's two people that are individuated and are independent, who come together in mutual love, care, respect, the foundational trust, foundational things that you need to have a healthy relationship, but come together with all those aspects of relating and being oneself, etc., and sharing, that are individual, independent. And then it's two people coming together in a relationship like that, from that place, each of them, and it becomes interdependent. Right? So it's not codependent. It's not like, oh, if I feel this right now, my partner better be here because I blah, blah, or what else. No, I'm just going to use my own experience right now. Is the relationship I'm in, that's, I think, getting close to being 5 years now, is it hard work? Well, there's a work component, but it's not hard work because I just respect her and love her so much and trust her so much. There's no push-pull, no up-down, no 1 minute you're great, next minute you suck. And so in a healthier relationship, yeah, you have to nurture the relationship. You have to be available to your partner when you can be, and they have to be able to take care of themselves when you can't be. And there's loving mutuality and reciprocity, which requires respect, consistency, congruence, object constancy. It requires healing from codependency. I would say that healthy relationships like the one I'm in, there's work, but I would, rather than say it's hard work, I would say there's nurture required there. There's needing to think about the other person, empathy, patience, trust, acceptance, and even knowing how to handle any conflict, or if somebody feels hurt or misunderstands something, which doesn't happen that often. But if it happens in a healthy relationship, both parties are going to be, maybe somebody's busy at a certain point. You can always say to your partner, like I can, well, hey, it doesn't come up for us much at all, but if something does come up, might be some misunderstanding or something, and my partner won't be overly angry about it or whatever, neither will I if it's something that I'm feeling. And I'm going to say, hey, I'd like to talk to you about a little bit about this or that or whatever, if when you got time. And she'll say, sure. And she might say, let's do it now. And I'll be like, okay. Or she might say, well, I'm just on my way out, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. And then, or if she approaches me with something, then I'll say the same thing. Well, I can't do that right now, but I hear you, and I really want to talk to you about that. And we'll find out what's going on here, right? Like, what is it? Because neither one of us gets that angry at each other. We might feel something, we might not understand something, so we want to check it out. And then I might say to her, well, either way it could go. Well, okay, I'm busy now, and she's busy, and whoever sought out whomever. And then it might be, well, we might have to consult our calendars, actually. Well, okay, how about like 9 o'clock tonight? We can, and then, it's fine. And I carry on with my day, and she carries on with her day. And this is what people do when they have object constancy and they love and trust the other person, because I always know if my partner needs to ask me about something or got a little bit of something to complain about because I'm not perfect, or vice versa, we know it's going to be okay. We trust each other. And there's that mutuality of, well, I can't do it now, okay, but we'll do it. Yeah, sure, no problem. And then we get together at the time that we agree. If we agree on a time, maybe we don't agree on a time. We say, well, I got to go right now, so let's revisit it tonight. And that might mean we have the time to talk about it and the will to talk about it or not. And then we just flow with that. And if it takes 4 days to get to something that we need to talk about, it's not a big deal. Because in the meantime, we have object constancy. I still know she loves me. She knows I love her. And it doesn't matter if there's a little something happening there. We each have the independence to go on with our work, on with our days, on with socializing. So I wouldn't agree that healthy relationships are hard work, but they can be, there's a work component. And I would say it's nurture, because there is object constancy, shared trust, respect. There's all of that mutuality. There's a healthy foundation to the relationship that takes away the really hard work part. Although people in couples, healthy relationships, you could come into some harder parts, and then you might have to sort of deal with that. It might seem like a little bit more work, though I don't think I would ever call it work in my life. Is it codependency, or is it just that people with BP, all relationships aren't that hard? Let me just say that. Healthy relationships are not going to be the impossible difficulty that relationships with somebody with BPD untreated or even undiagnosed is going to be. So this idea comes from your childhood if you have codependency. There's something you experienced in your childhood that when you had the adaptation of codependency start occurring for you, well, you might have had to please a parent a lot to get any attention, and maybe it didn't even work. But you started to learn that, or be inculcated or trained, that you had to work awful hard to get any of your needs met, or awful hard to get seen and heard, or awful hard to try to chase, as children do without knowing it, trying to chase emotional safety. If only I could get mom or dad to stop and listen to me and do this, I'll feel okay. Make it better. And so when this happens to people in childhood and you have developed codependency, then you learn in a sort of unhealthy way, well, maybe all relationships are just real hard work. For people with codependency, is a person with BPD and the relationship only hard work or only really hard work? No, because it's the impossibility of a difficulty that can't be repaired. They don't have object constancy. They don't know how to love and attach. People with codependency have some attachment issues often. And your love isn't as healthy as you think it is for the other person, because you need to know how to love yourself, have a healthier love and relationship to and with yourself. That's what the purpose of healing codependency is. So how do you tell the difference? Well, if the relationship is constantly rupturing, they're not there for you. Maybe things are good for a little bit, but that you're not being re-idealized. And then all of a sudden they just have a split to devaluation. They don't have object constancy, And when they feel strongly, they can't talk to you about things. They don't take responsibility or accountability for what they're feeling. And by the way, people with BPD don't know how to check in with people. People with BPD, if they're untreated, depending the severity of how much, how severe the BPD is, they're not likely to say, can we talk about, I'm really feeling this way, and I don't know if you meant to hurt me, because they'll be assuming something like that. They're like, I don't know if you meant to hurt me or what, but I'm feeling this way, and what happened when you said this? They don't do that. They don't know how to do that. So they don't have a self from which to do that. So that's why when you're like, hey, because something happened and hurts you, and you're trying to ask them, but they just raged at you, and you're like, what happened? What were you feeling? Why were you doing that? Why were you, whatever the questions that might come up are, that's when they just get you into the jade by going, what are you talking about? What do you mean? I didn't do that. You did that. Oh, you're saying that I was I wasn't raging. I was just a little bit pissed at you, right? And so you can't even get them on the same page to have a conversation. Is that hard work? It's hard, but guess what? It's worse than hard. It's impossible. So it's not that all relationships are hard work. It's got a lot to do with the person with BPD and how they can't really relate in any consistent, congruent way. They don't have object constancy, and they don't have a self. So there's no foundational shared mutual trust. There's no foundational mutual consistent understanding of, hey, when you're out of sight, when you're at work, when you go away, borderline doesn't believe you love them anymore. No. It's like you've gone away. You abandoned me. And not that they're going to be consciously aware of it, but you get all those calls at work. Well, this happened. Well, that happened. And no matter what they say, it's like, help me, rescue me, fix it. I don't know what to do with it. What is it? I don't even think it's a thing, but something's bugging me, and you need to do something about it. Because I need you back here right now. And they may not use those words. How do you tell the difference? Well, let me say this really gently, okay? I've been a lot of places in my past. I had to do a lot of work to be healthy, and I've been kind of living an averagely healthy life for about almost 40 years now. And so the first 27 years of my life, maybe up to 30, were not like that. And I was working on that in therapy all that time. So here's what I want to tell you is what I learned way back in my past. How can you tell the difference between the relationship with your borderline or that's over now and a healthy relationship or that it's not just you? That's a process that people have to learn in therapy as well. And I work with clients on that as well because my answer is you're not really going to know because you're in this fantasy bond. The commenter and anybody that can relate is asking, well, how do I know the difference? Is it her BPD or is it my codependency? Well, it's both. And is that a little bit of black and white thinking? Yeah, and that can happen for people with codependency. That can happen for people in life in general, just not the same intensity, same way that it happens for people with BPD. How do you tell the difference? You get into therapy and you start finding out more about yourself and you understand more about why the relationship's impossible with a person with BPD, untreated or actually unless until they've actually recovered, and that's a whole other thing. To be able to tell the difference, you have to get into your own healing recovery journey to find your way to knowing unequivocally what that difference is. So I'm not even going to sit here and try to explain it because it has to do with the examples I gave of my relationship or healthy relationships, healthier relationships, certainly not BPD or cluster B relationships. I wonder if anybody picked up on it when I said this. When I was talking about my relationship, for example, it's not hard work. It requires nurture, attention, effort, being involved, caring, trusting, all the foundational aspects of a healthy relationship. But how are you going to be able to tell the difference when for a lot of people right now who've been with somebody with BPD or you're recycling the relationship on and off or you're sitting there in this discarded place or ghosted place, you don't know if it's a final discard and you're just in utter agony. I've been there too. I understand that place. so well. It's so horribly painful. But I hope you can hear me when I say to you gently, with compassion and agape kind of love is what I mean by sort of love, but agape, okay? It's, you really can't tell the difference until you start to really do your healing and recovery work. And one of the biggest obstacles for people with codependency to be able to actually delineate this and learn more about it, even when working with someone, and I'm out here to work with you if you resonate with me, it's difficult. It takes a little bit of time because there's going to be a lot of emotion there about the relationship, about how it didn't work, about what happened. And there's going to be feelings from childhood. And there's a lot of emotional healing to do there. So my answer to how do you tell the difference is you probably at this point in time in your life don't know how. And I mean that with all due respect, by the way. And I remember the time in my life when I'd healed a lot of other things, and then I had like severe codependency to deal with. And I wouldn't have been able to answer that question at that point in time, how you tell the difference between a healthy relationship or one with somebody with BPD. But the thing is, or cluster B, but the thing is, all relationships aren't just hard work. Though I will say that M. Scott Peck's definition of love, which is one I really like, but there are many others out there, is that, quote, love is hard work and honesty, unquote. And so I rather, I guess, would say I like that quote of M. Scott Peck, but I guess I would rather say that a lot of the hard work in a healthy relationship is nurture, is care, is checking things out. And people with BPD don't know how to check things out. And people with codependency might have some skill at checking things out, but you're trying to check things out with a person who doesn't know how to do that, doesn't take personal accountability, doesn't take personal responsibility, and will be in their own way triggered because you're trying to check something out because you want to know what's going on here, because you want to help them feel better. But that's not your job. But it's really because you need to feel better. And you need the external validation from the borderline that they still, quote, love you, unquote. That it's going to be okay. Like, will they go to therapy or won't they go to therapy? All these kind of things. This is the hard work of trying to relate to somebody. Undiagnosed, suspected, all the patterns of BPD, or diagnosed with BPD, untreated. So I hope that makes sense. And I really thank the commenter for the comments and the questions, and they're very much exploring in an open way. Is it just the person with BPD, or is it codependency? Is it both? Are all relationships hard work? Relationships with somebody with BPD or anywhere in cluster B, they're not just hard work, ladies and gentlemen. They're a work, an agony, a trying, a rescuing, fixing, all the codependent aspects too, of impossibility. And that's why you might know in your head you need to let go, but you don't know how to let go emotionally. Out here to work with you if I resonate with you, and if you're ready to step into action to change all the confusion, all the lostness, and all the freaking pain that you're really in. Take care.